Music.
Tonight, Olympic excitement is in the air. The final touches are being put in place, and the athletes are preparing for the biggest moment of their lives. You know, it's hard to believe that we're just, 50 days away from the start of the Summer Games in London.
50 days exactly. Photographer Tim Pamplin and I traveled to the UK to uncover the real London behind the Olympics. Now, they just wrapped up the Queen's Jubilee, of course, this week. So they excited for the Games? Not yet, and that is so very British.
Samuel Johnson said, when a man is tired of London, he is tired of life, for there is in London all that life can afford. It was likely true in 1777 when he said it, and it feels very true today. Talk all you want about world-class cities, London sits in some very rare air, occupied by just 3 or 4 other world capitals. And this August, London becomes the only city in the world that can lay claim to being the setting for 3 Olympiads. The venues are just about ready. The Olympic Park has completely transformed what was a rather grungy warehouse district in East London, and the tickets are pretty much all gone. And yet, ask a Londoner about the coming of the Games and you may get some grumbling, but that is very much in the London character.
Brits love to moan. I think there might be a feeling that, oh, it's going to be a bit of a pain, especially for the people that haven't got tickets. When they start, I think that'll change.
It's good for the younger people in the country sort of thing, but if it's monetary value, we don't know, do we, till afterwards.
They may have been built on the simple notions of honorable competition between neighbors, but the modern Olympics are a long way from simple. The cost of staging an Olympiad is staggering. Venues have to be built, infrastructure needs to be added, or at the very least improved, and today's security worries and precautions are a nightmare. And yet cities fight like mad for the right to be a host city.
Hosting the Summer Olympic Games means, of course, worldwide attention and tons of tourism, but this is what London looks like just about every day. I'm not sure that they really need much more tourism here. So given the outlay that it takes to host the Games, a lot of Brits are wondering, is it worth it?
Yeah, 100%. I think my father-in-law always said to me, the best times to do things are the worst times, and I think it's the best time. Let's have a big party, and hopefully it can push England and Europe back into getting excited about the economy rather than worrying about it, because worrying isn't going to get us anywhere.
But the truth is, right now London is at that hassle stage. Final venue tweaks, security tests, road closures. There's a public information campaign urging people to plan ahead for the headaches of August. Add to that the fact that Londoners do love to complain about the weather and traffic. So you can imagine the exasperation potential of the Olympics, given that the Games are intricately interwoven with both. Then there's worry about terrorism or public health. The Games are a worry machine. Lloyd Edmonds can be found most Sundays playing his guitar with his mile-wide smile at Hyde Park. The Olympics should be good for London's many street performers, you would think, but in the inevitable city cleanup that will get underway, does he stay or is he swept away?
See over there, you got 4 or 5 policemen are standing over there, so I'm wondering if they will allow me to play here when it comes to the Olympics.
And yet behind the worries, behind the classic London humbug, behind the billions of dollars being spent in a recession, there is some glee underneath it all. It's the Olympics, and they're going to be here, and isn't that fine? You want proof? Well, good luck finding tickets.
I can't get a ticket. I work for the BBC.
Now, of course, it's London, England, but those are not the same thing. Tim insisted that we had to get out of London to see the real Great Britain, because these are the British Games, and you'll see much more of that as we march toward the Games. Of course, remember, Local 4, the only place you can watch the Olympics, and they get started on July 27th.
Did you get to Downton Abbey?
We want to
die there.
I wanted to take Tim to Downton Abbey. We didn't get down there. Yes, I did want to get to Downton Abbey. But we've got, but Tim, I left the itinerary largely up to Tim, so you'll see where we went as we go ahead.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks. We draw closer to the Olympic Games in London. If you are lucky enough to have tickets and you're actually going to be there, boy, lucky you, it's going to be fantastic. More likely, after you've watched the Games, you may want to visit. As you know, Tim Pamplin and I did that to get a preview of the Games, but we also found a few quirky things on our travels that are uniquely British.
There is so much that is familiar in Britain. For starters, the language, of course. Though you may not always believe that you're hearing English. You can get a little lost.
I always remember when race carts and Peter Doherty. all them years. I just had to move it a minute ago and drive out of there. Some people come out and sort of looking at it. It's a lovely motor, isn't it?
I'm not sure I caught all that, but I was so busy admiring the '57 Ford Thunderbird I didn't mind. But that takes us to the matter of driving. When Americans visit the British Isles, there can be nothing quite as daunting as sliding into your rental car and realizing it's all backwards. I left most of the driving to Tim Pamplin, but eventually he needed a break.
Well, Tim, now that you've got me in the driver's seat, perhaps you can help me understand what I've always felt is a severe flaw in the British system, and that is driving on the left side of the road. What is this all about?
That's absolute bunkum. It's not a flaw. It's the correct way of driving, and it's got a lot of history, a lot of rich history to this, of course, being an English system.
Tim went on to explain the history of left-hand driving and the connection to needing to draw your pistol with your right hand or some such hocus-pocus, but this was an argument that went on for the duration of our journey. But figuring out the left-hand side is just part of the nuttiness in the UK. Throw in the fact that the gear shift is now a left-handed maneuver. And then you're trying to navigate the crazy British roundabouts going in what feels like the wrong direction. But all that pales in comparison to the outrageous hazard known as the rising bollard. If you see a sign that says rising bollards, just stay away. This is a bollard, and as you see, as a bus approaches, an electronic signal drops the bollard down into the roadway and the bus can pass. Here comes a taxi cab who similarly has an electronic signal and can also get through. But if you or I were to try to drive our cars through, that would happen, and the results, as you can find on YouTube, are not pretty. Insanity! The rising bollards are in areas that are mostly pedestrian areas with limited access for vehicles like buses and taxis. That was in Cambridge, where Tim and I were. You were forewarned.
So
it is the goofiest thing.
Body shops there must do a bloody good business.
Well, when the foreigners are driving, yes, absolutely.
Skewered by a bollard.
Never heard that. I never saw the bollard in my life.
I had no idea what it said.
Driving on the wrong side of the road, I agree with you.
Daunting.
It's
wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
There's 50 countries in the world that do it.
Where's Pamplin? Is he in the building?
No.
Bring him out of here. We'll beat some sense into
It's
him.
highwayman nonsense.
Yeah.
It's so close now, you can almost see the medals. The Summer Olympics get underway in London in about a month, starting on July the 27th. And while the games are way across the pond, you can always find a connection that comes right back here to Metro Detroit.
Of course, you know, Tim Pamplin and I traveled to London to get a preview of the games. While we were there, Tim insisted we needed to get way out of London. And it's a good thing we did, because that's where we ran into a Detroiter who's running that most English of all things, a football team. You get out of London, away from the crowds, you drive several hours north, and you come to where the hills are dotted with sheep. And as you near the lovely Peak District, you're smack in the middle of England, home to Derby and the Derby County Rams. It's the last game of the season. It's been a good one for the Rams, especially compared to last year when they only managed to win 3 out of 20. The fans are jamming the place, decked out in their beloved black and white, and lording over all of it from the owner's box is the guy who just flew in yesterday from his home in Metro Detroit.
A friend of mine said, hey, you ought to look at these English clubs, and we did 5 years ago, and here we are.
Meet the chairman of the Derby Football Club, Andy Appleby.
You know, we really were trying to find the very best team at the very best price, just like anything. And, you know, we really found the best, we thought, anyway, with these facilities and the rich history of this club. And, you know, Derby is a really special place.
Appleby is no rookie to the sports world. After cutting his teeth as vice president of the Pistons, he founded General Sports and Entertainment. And after moving into sports ownership with a minor league baseball team, he and a group of partners moved up to the very big time, English football. Football is king in Derby, and by the way, yes, I know it's spelled with an E, Derby, but it's pronounced with an A, Derby, you know, one of those English things, like football itself, which isn't life or death. It's more serious than that.
Loyalty, that's what sustained the club over so many years. Supporters keep coming back. We'll have 26, 27,000 here today, and their support is superb.
Of course, that loyalty cuts both ways. Owners, foreigners or not, will always be second guessed. This fan has seen a lot of the Rams in his 82 years, and he has a thing or two on his mind.
I wish Derby had put more money on. They want a striker, a good striker.
You know, sports rivalries in the U.S. can be bad, but they really don't quite compare to the rivalries that exist in English football. In fact, at stadiums like this one in Derby, the fans for the two teams have separate entrances.
They don't even sit together. They don't even sit together, the opposing fans, and that's been the case for forever.
Obviously, in America, it's your players that fight, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes.
Whereas with us, it's our fans.
Actually, things have gotten quite a bit better the last few years. Hooliganism isn't near the problem it was, but the fans can still be harsh. Some of the songs we heard were hilarious, but we can't actually play them on broadcast television. Have you learned all the songs? There's a million of them.
There's a lot of chants. Some we don't want to know. You heard a few today, Devin.
Yes, I did. But there's a reason for the intensity. British football is very much a meritocracy. Winning is everything because it means moving up into the next division. Imagine the year that the Lions went 0-16. Under the British system of relegation, they wouldn't have been allowed to play in the NFL the next year. They would have dropped down to the next league. So in England, every team is fighting to be in the Premier League alongside Manchester United and Arsenal. Derby's been there before and is fighting to get back, but at what cost?
Every game matters, and that is kind of the holy grail in sports management, is to make the games matter. And here, every game matters, and in some cases, almost matter too much.
Yeah, yeah. No doubt. Now, no, Andy Appleby doesn't make it to every game. Thank the internet. Can follow the games from his home back here in Metro Detroit, but he knows it's important that the team and staff see him as often as possible. The off-season is usually very short in English football, but a little longer this year thanks to the Olympics. And remember, Local 4 is the only place you can catch the summer games. All gets underway right here on July 27th.
I'll never get used to calling that football.
I know. Well, you fall right into it when you're there, though.
You do. Yeah. But then again, they renamed Big Ben Elizabeth Tower.
I heard, yes, that's a little odd. That's going to take some getting used to. You're never going to call it that, are you?
No.
We are just 24 days away now from the start of the Summer Olympics, and the pressure is really beginning to build. On the athletes, oh sure, we've seen that in the Olympic trials, but no, I meant on the city of London. You know how it is when companies coming over, and in this case, it's the whole world, the whole post 9/11 world. Paul Dayton is the chief executive of the London Organizing Committee. If security worries are keeping him up at night, he's not letting on.
London's a city which has dealt with security risk and with running major events, I mean, really, for all its modern history. So we have a lot of experience in this.
It's a major target, and it's not just a major target during the Olympic Games. It's a major target every day of the year.
Here at Scotland Yard, they hope they've thought of everything, because the old adage in law enforcement is that you worry most about the things you haven't thought of. And from the better safe than sorry school of thought, Britain is employing 35,000 security personnel, putting surface-to-air missiles on rooftops, and even parking 2 warships on the Thames. The trick is creating ironclad safety that doesn't feel ironclad, that doesn't ruin the Olympic experience.
Think of the traditional image of the British Bobby, and you'll have a sense of how we're going to manage it here. So I think people will feel safe. But they'll also feel that, not intimidated in any way. I think we'll get that balance just right.
But that's just one layer of the enormous cake of pressure that is baking in London. The countdown clock is counting down the moments not to a race or a game or a competition, but to the opening curtain.
Beijing raised the bar, didn't they? I mean, how much did they spend on that opening ceremony?
It's become, a global obsession as well, hasn't it? The eyes of the world on you, all those cliches is true.
Congratulations, London. You get to follow Beijing.
Yeah, I mean, Beijing's opening ceremony was, of course, spectacular.
Got a plan for the opening ceremonies?
In some ways, competing with that doesn't overly intimidate me, because it was so much at the upper end of what could be accomplished in terms of resources that I think everybody has managed their own expectations and sort of said to us, without us needing really to say anything, well, of course, you won't be able to do that, before we've even told them that, no, we couldn't do that.
Sound logic that not everyone is buying.
But then, as we've crept closer, they've doubled the budget, they've started to talk about what a great advert this is for Britain and all the rest of it. They've sort of rode back on that and said, actually, we do need a big spectacle as well as all those other things. But I think I'm quite confident about the opening ceremony. I think it's going to be great.
I wouldn't worry. They've enlisted Danny Boyle, the director of Slumdog Millionaire, to produce the opening ceremonies. And few nations can match the British when it comes to music. Let's see, a short list would take you from Jagger to Bowie to Elton all the way through to Adele and Coldplay, and we already know Sir Paul will be involved somehow. And I'm almost certain the British sense of humor will be on display. But then again, I wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Actually, when it comes to it, it's the action on the track, and it's the action in the swimming pool, and it's the action in, you know, on the tennis court and where have you. That's what people remember.
Well, that brings us to yet another 20 tons of pressure, and that is falling on the shoulders of the British athletes. Chances are your thoughts about British Olympic domination go back a few years. But Britain won 19 gold medals in Beijing. The heat is on to win even more now. That home Olympic crowd, well, it can push you to greatness.
Or, you know, some people can freeze under that kind of pressure. And I guess at the Games we'll find out which category our athletes fall into.
It's all worth it, of course, because even a jaded sportscaster can't be jaded when the Games show up in your own backyard.
I cannot wait. I couldn't be more excited about an Olympic Games in my hometown. Genuinely, it'll be the highlight of my career.
Sure will. The other two big problems in London, weather, which can be rough there, and traffic, which always is rough there. You can get up to speed on the Olympics before they get underway on our website. Click on Detroit.com. Remember, Local 4 is the only place, of course, you can see the Olympic Games. We're all getting very, very excited.
How will they light the Olympic flame this time?
That's the great, I know.
Ever since the arrow in Spain.
Ever since the arrow in Barcelona. How are you going to do it? In fact, there's a lot of betting going on as to who will be the one to do it. My bet will be Roger Bannister, who's the first person to run a sub 4-minute mile, who is elderly but still capable and expected to be there and will be lionized if he does it. We'll see.
We shall see.
I wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition there, Ruth.
It will be bloody good, whatever it is, Devin.
It's like my theme music by now. We are just 23 days away from the Olympic Games in London. As you know, I recently traveled to London. We've been bringing you a lot of the preparations that have been going on in the Olympic City, showing you the behind the scenes as they prepare for this enormous world pageant. But to my great advantage, I traveled to England with an Englishman. And I also wanted to show you some of Tim Pamplin and my excellent British adventure.
So welcome to the Olympic City 2012. We're coming to you from London.
Tim, you and I have traveled all over the world together, but I think you'll allow this was a very different kind of assignment for us because it was you showing me your home.
Quite right, Devin. I do try to keep a neutral eye on the events we cover, but I really did want to make sure that you and our viewers saw the real Great Britain, not just the kinds of London that most tourists end up at.
Well, a city, of course, is made up of its people. So we started in Tim Pamplin's London, and we ran into a beautiful array of people there. Everyone from the wonderful street guitarist that I could have talked to all day.
If you're going to sit here and play music, it's got to be of a reasonable standard or you will look like a clown. And I'm not a clown and I'm not a beggar. I'm a musician, so it goes in, they can't close their ears. So what goes in, you've got to make it reasonable.
Right, this was right outside of Marble Arch. What a wonderful chap, a great highlight of our London stay, especially compared to the woman we tried to interview at Speaker's Corner.
People are sick of foreigners.
Now, Speaker's Corner is a special area of Hyde Park. It goes back centuries, where people can come to discuss, well, argue really,
argue,
the issues of the day. What Americans might call a First Amendment free-for-all. They do this every Sunday morning, which happened to be the day we arrived, so a little bedraggled, weary from the transatlantic red-eye.
This is London, with or without the Olympics.
This woman was railing against all of the immigrants coming into London, and she seemed to think you, Devin Skillion, was just one more ugly foreigner she didn't need to be dealing with.
And what business is that to you? You're an American, mind your own business.
Yes, that was a special way to start things off. We did see all of the great sights in London, which means we spent a lot of time in London's notorious traffic.
And it's backed up over here as well. You have to pay a congestion fee to drive in this part of town.
And we did what Tim insists we do every trip, no matter where we go.
Absolutely right, of course, Devin. We try to find a good Indian restaurant.
Well, welcome to Millbank Spice. and central.
Fortunately, in London, there's one about every half mile or so.
Chicken tikka masala is, I think, the most popular dish now, right? In London.
It is. Chicken tikka masala is the number one dish.
Even non-Indian restaurants serve chicken tikka masala.
You go to a chip shop and you can get a curry and chips.
Man, we did get to see the miraculous makeover in Stratford. This is the portion of East London that until now was mostly warehouses and canals. Today, it is the sparkling center of the Olympic experience, home to the new stadium and the aquatic center they call the Stingray. It is really quite a transformation. But Tim was insistent that London is not the same as England.
Quite passionate about this fact, Devon. I thought it was extremely important that we get out of the capital city. We make our way to the real England, the countryside, the one I know, the one I love and grew up in. So I took Devon 50 miles up the M11, first stop Cambridge, where in this market square we met this splendid chap. Spent some time in Detroit, he says, back in the 60s, and is most appreciative for one thing he learned while he was in the D.
And what a luxury in those days to have ice with your drinks.
You've caught on to that sense.
Oh, yeah, we've caught, thank heavens.
But that was where he had to end our conversation because, as he put it, it was now the cocktail hour. By the way, it was about 11:30 in the morning.
Don't judge, Devon. Then we made our way to Bury St Edmunds, where I arranged for my literary companion to spend the night in the bed once favoured by Charles Dickens. Yes, that Charles Dickens.
Easily one of the highlights of the trip, Tim. I woke up feeling like a better writer.
No time to sit around here. We continued north to where the sheep seem to outnumber the people, all the way to Derbyshire in the Peak District to take in an English football game.
Nothing quite like English football.
Between the game, the farmers' markets, and the restaurants, and the town pubs, and the driving, and the majestic scenery, I think Devon got a taste of the Britain I know.
It was just lovely, and for me, a trip worth singing about.
Oh, inspire us, Jehovah, with courage.
The Thursday night singing group at that particular pub. I got to sleep in Charles Dickens' bed. I will be indebted to Tim forever. You can get up to speed on the Olympics before they get underway on our website at clickondetroit.com. And of course, we are so delighted to be the place where you can watch this year's Summer Olympic Games. 23 days away.
Wow. Well, you were all over the place in your trip there, I see, and I love the favorite part was the greeting that you received from that woman there.
In Speaker's Corner.
So welcoming.
We'd only been in the country about an hour and a half, and that was what happened. That was funny.
Boy, we're only 15 days from the start of the Summer Olympics in London. Can you believe that?
So close. I love it. This is a delicate but a serious issue for the Brits, and how they deal with it will be the question. These, of course, are the London Games, and that has some British citizens feeling left out. So can the Games connect with Brits outside of London, like in Liverpool and Newcastle, Bristol and Dover?
Well, the perfect person we know where to find out. Our Devin Scullion went to London and beyond, and here's what he brought back.
Boy, it's beautiful here, isn't it? We are a long way from London now in central Britain, where the huge crowds of people give way to huge flocks of sheep. But it's a great place to consider what has become a very delicate question here. Are these the British Games, or are they just the London Games? London is often referred to as an international city, and it is so very true. Walk along the crowded streets, ride on the busy tube,
Mind the gap.
or just sit in a beautiful park, listen, and you'll hear the whole world go by. Debates over immigration are commonplace in London as the citizens of this worldly city ponder whether it's possible to remain, well, British in the face of sea change immigration. Yes, the palaces and cathedrals and gardens are still there, but the most popular restaurant dish in London today is chicken tikka masala.
People are sick of foreigners.
No, they're not. I'm a foreigner.
This is exactly why many Brits will tell you that if you want to know the real England, if you want to get in touch with Great Britain at its truest and bluest, you've got to get out of its sprawling capital. So we did, because among those who believe that, my trusty travel companion and photographer, the right good Briton, Tim Pamplin. But the Games organizers are looking beyond London, too.
It's a relatively small country, the United Kingdom, so everybody can really be a part of it. I think in past Games, there's perhaps been more of a focus on the city. I think here we said, look, London is the host city, but we want to make this a Games for the whole of the United Kingdom, and we can do that.
So, north we go. We're just outside Haverhill at a pub called the Woolpick. Excited about the Games? Yeah. Expecting it to help business?
No, it's not the sort of thing that people are going to say, you know, guys, let's meet down the pub and watch the shot put or the javelin or, you know. I don't think it will happen.
Well, Jasper Cuppage of Camden Town Brewery is a little more bullish. His brewery is releasing a new beer for the games based on a recipe from 1908, the first year London hosted the games. Cuppage is hoping it'll pull the international crowds to Camden.
Have a snap at making the old beers, but also have the doors open to the people who are coming to the city to come and drink at Camden while they're in town, not just at the brewery but in the whole borough.
We head further from London to Bury St Edmunds and the lovely Angel Hotel, where you can actually sleep in Charles Dickens' bed. This is the England visitors can find not too far from the city, and there's faith here that they will.
Oh, I think they're the British Games, certainly. They're all, people will come out of London and move around. Hopefully they will anyway.
From London, through Cambridge, to Suffolk, up to sheep country in the town of Derby. Tim and I found quite a bit of enthusiasm and lots of people who had applied for tickets. But the only person we talked to who actually won the drawing and got some? Robert Goff back at the Angel Hotel. You want excitement?
My family and I have got tickets for the first day of the athletics, and I'm trying to work out what time we're allowed in the stadium. Are we allowed in at 6 a.m? Because we'll stand outside and feel the grass, and then we'll walk around the stadium, and we'll have our time in the stadium, and they'll have to kick us out around midnight.
In London, Devin Skillion, Local 4.
Is it me, or do the British just take everything in stride, nothing really to get too excited about?
I just love to listen to them. No, I love those things.
I think we do, too.
Wonderful.